Welcome to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show looking into all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Today we'll be talking to a number of people about topics of interest and importance to Michiganders just like you. Let's begin with what's making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page. Our top story today comes from Jamie L. LaRoe at the Detroit Free Press. The Carvana dealership just off of I-96 in Novi has had its license suspended by the Michigan Department of State due to a number of violations considered, quote, an imminent harm to the public, end closed quote. The issues began in February of last year when state officials provided Carvana with notice of multiple violations of the state's vehicle code. After discussions with the state representatives from the State Department, Carvana entered a probationary period in May of 2021, set to last for a year and a half. After further violations, a second preliminary conference was held with the dealership in January of this year, and an agreement was reached to extend the probationary period for an additional 6 months and fine $5,000 to Carvana for administrative fees. Then came more complaints, more investigations, and several more findings of code violations that include, but aren't limited to, failing to make application for title and registration within 15 days of delivery for 112 customers since agreeing to an earlier probation extension, committing fraud in connection with selling or otherwise dealing in vehicles where Carvana employees admitted to destroying title applications and all applicable documents pertaining to the sale of 3 vehicles that were sold to customers, and Carvana took the vehicles back after doing so. Also, failing to maintain odometer records, improperly using temporary registrations, failing to have records available for inspection during reasonable or established business hours, possessing improper odometer disclosure records on which the odometer disclosure had been signed on behalf of the car buyer, not necessarily by the buyer of the car itself, and violating terms of a probation agreement 127 times. Now the state says it will look to get rid of Carvana, rid Carvana of its dealership license altogether. Another investigation is set to come, but no date was given to the Free Press for a hearing. If you have a complaint against Carvana following your own vehicle purchase from them or have had issues obtaining a title, please call the Department of State's Office of Investigative Services at 517-335-1410. That number, 517-335-1410. Okay, now buckle up because there's even more vehicle-related issues coming up, and this one is a doozy. Also making headlines today from Aisha Johnson at the Detroit News. Amtrak is offering a refund and travel vouchers to travelers who over the weekend were on their way to Chicago, and well, let's say they may as well have hit the midnight train to Georgia. About 450 people bound for Chicago on Friday out of Pontiac and other Michigan locations were stuck waiting for repairs, train switches, and a bevy of other issues on what became a 13-hour trip that usually takes about 5.5. Wolverine train 351 departed Pontiac at 6 a.m. on Friday, stopping shortly after in Ann Arbor due to mechanical issues. It was then attached to another train, train 353, then becoming a double train, hopefully relieving the issues that were had on 351. Not so fast, however, as a medical emergency stopped the trains in Jackson, and then another issue, this time with the brakes, stopped the trains in Gary, Indiana. But that's just the basics of the story. Also on the train, no food, no electricity, and unflushable toilets, making for a ride that stank on multiple levels. Some got off at several different locations and sought ride shares, including some who opened the doors by force and walked off the tracks to a nearby freeway to pick up rides, according to an article from MLive. The trains finally arrived in Chicago at 12:03 a.m. on Saturday, and keep in mind, that's Central Time, a total of 13 and a half hours for the trek for passengers originating on the trip from Pontiac. Amtrak spokesperson Mark McGlary said in a statement, quote, "We began contacting customers from both trains over the weekend to repeat our apologies and offer them refunds or transportation credit for a future trip at their option," end closed quote. Yikes. Finally making headlines today on CivicCenterTV.com's local news page from Robin Erb at Bridge, Michigan. Finally, some good news today with prices of insulin on the rise A Michigan lawmaker is working on recruiting production of the vital resource right here in the Great Lakes state. If all goes well, 2 drug companies may begin producing insulin right here in Michigan by 2024, slashing costs for customers like you to a fraction of where they're at today. Senator Curtis Vanderwall, a Ludington Republican behind the push and the head of the Senate's Health Policy Committee, got an extra boost to his efforts from across the aisle last week when Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed an executive directive instructing state departments to brainstorm additional ways to reduce insulin prices for Michiganders. According to Herb's article from Bridge, Michigan, diabetes was the 8th leading cause of death in the U.S. in 2020, bumped from 7th place by COVID deaths, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In Michigan, more than 912,000 residents have been diagnosed with diabetes, according to the American Diabetes Association. So this is certainly good news, and hopefully our leaders here in Michigan will be able to follow through on that and bring some of these facilities into our state and reduce those costs of insulin that certainly our current economic times aren't helping when it was already quite ridiculous for a vital resource to keep these individuals alive and well, being at such a high price. All those headlines today on our website, civiccentertv.com, on our local news page, along with updates on COVID-19 from the CDC, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great show ahead on this Tuesday edition of the Megacast. Coming up next, October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so we'll talk to an expert about modern issues on the web with Global Network Solutions CEO Draython Savoi. That's coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be like happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find more information on all of our partnering stations all across the Great Lakes state, including My Michigan TV, and find all of our full shows and individual interviews on demand. Watch us on your time, anytime, all around Michigan and around the world on resources such as My Michigan TV and CivicCenterTV.com. As we mentioned, October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and as we continue to have so much of our lives on the web, including our interviews on this show, continuing to be over Zoom and on the web, it's important to have an idea of how to increase your cybersecurity infrastructure in your home and certainly in your business and your workplace. Here to help us through some of these modern issues is Draython Savoi, the CEO of Global Network Solutions, with us on the Megacast. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Tyler.
Appreciate having you on. So it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. There's plenty to consider right now in the world of cybersecurity, but most certainly, I think on the minds of everybody particularly business owners and entities such as school districts and government agencies, is the possibility of cyber attacks and particularly ransomware taking over some of their systems. What are some things that these small businesses and certainly these public entities should be considering doing that maybe they aren't on a large scale doing at this time to protect from some of these issues that are becoming more common as time goes on and hackers become more skilled?
That's an excellent question, Tyler. So the one thing we say today is it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Or the other saying is there are two types of people: those who have been hit by ransomware and those that will be hit by ransomware or a cybersecurity event. So we used to focus a lot on defense, and we're moving towards a strategy of defense combined with preparation for an event that occurs. So it's really important to kind of harden your environments, both at home and at work, so that you prepare for the event of a cyber event. And that can mean everything from making sure you do the basics. In terms of businesses, make sure there's a firewall, make sure you have some sort of identity access management program. In terms of individuals, making sure that you separate your networks at home, make sure the kids aren't on the same network as your business laptop. So in case one of the kids hops on, kids get into things, it just happens. If they get into something they shouldn't, and make sure it doesn't affect your environment. Make sure that you have backups, and a lot of people do have backups, but they don't always test them. So testing those backups and making sure they actually work are important, and following a format with your IT company or your IT department to make sure that those backups are secure in a way that if there is an event, that those backups are not compromised.
And beyond that, who are some of the easiest, just taking a step back, who are some of the easiest targets for hackers in terms of businesses or just individuals? Is it individuals that they're mostly targeting, or is it some of these larger entities that they can get more data from? Who typically are these easier targets, or at least the juicier targets for some of these hackers?
The Great Resignation has kind of shifted how adversaries look at targets. So because homes have very little cybersecurity, it has been easier for hackers to hack people at home. In addition, small businesses sometimes don't have the resources to invest in robust programs. So we find that there's a huge uptick in attack on small businesses. So we really are trying to get the word out to small businesses that they really do start to focus on developing some sort of cybersecurity program, and as well as following those practices at home also. We are quite a ways behind in terms of trying to educate the general public in terms of preparing for or getting a mindset to always be vigilant about cyber possibilities. It has become part of our daily life, and it needs to become a part of our regular routine. Just like we put our seatbelts on every time we get in the car, we need to change our mindsets to start thinking about what we can do to be safer both at home and at work in our small businesses.
It's interesting too, because when these small businesses do get attacked and they may not have that kind of infrastructure that they need, it often can be fatal to those businesses. 60% of small businesses that suffer a data breach end up going out of business within 6 months following that breach. But what's also interesting is just how long it can take for some of these companies, particularly those that don't have a strong IT infrastructure or security systems in place, to even identify that a breach has been had. And then you take into account all the different residual ways that breach can then affect yourself, your customers, your employees, and beyond. On average, what is it that does trigger to these companies, particularly these small businesses with less resources, that they have been a victim of a breach? And then what steps can they take? Because that response can take a while too.
And for small business, we realize that they don't have the funds. So we always try and focus on some basic things to make it more difficult for adversaries to kind of breach your environment. If you talk to your insurance companies, they will stress the importance of multi-factor authentication. I've even encouraged some organizations to go to triple factor, where they have making it even harder. Some people look at it as an inconvenience, but if you look at the impact on your business, if you are hit by ransomware, as you stated, it's not worth going out of business. You're protecting an asset. You're protecting your employees. You're protecting your clients. You're protecting your income. So is it an inconvenience to do that? Many people complain again when we had to wearing seatbelts a lot, or when we start wearing helmets on motorcycles, but people have gotten used to it and it's not an inconvenience anymore. This is a mindset and shift in how we think and how we do business. We have to get in a daily routine of doing basic things. So multi-factor authentication, very important. Strong passwords. I know people have heard this over and over again, but having a strong password combined with multi-factor and sometimes triple factor authentication really does make a huge difference in how you're able to look at things. All breaches start with vulnerabilities. So kind of fixing those vulnerabilities or having a program that helps you identify what those vulnerabilities are is really important. And then another item that might be very beneficial is using some sort of uh, system that allows you to enforce policies or security policies. Because many times, as human beings, sometimes we want to be a little lazier, sometimes just take shortcuts. So having a system that kind of enforces the ability to use those multi-factor authentication strong passwords also helps us to be more secure.
We're joined by Draython Savoi, the CEO of Global Network Solutions, with us on today's edition of the Megacast. You can find more information on gnsinc.net or gnsync.net for more information from his company, and also join them as well as Oakland County's Business Forward Initiative on October 20th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Hawk in Farmington Hills for their Cyberwean Risk Management Conference. Again, October 20th, 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. at the Hawk in Farmington Hills to learn more information about strategies your small business or you as an individual can even take to prevent some of these cyber attacks, including ransomware or just a basic breach that can altogether be quite expensive and quite dangerous too for personal information of yourself, your customers, your employees, and so much more. And while we're on the topic of that, you mentioned setting strong passwords. For so many people, they want to have a veritable password. You want to have one that's got a lot of different characters, capitalization, some symbols in there as well, maybe even some numbers. And for so many people, memorizing all these different symbols, all these different numbers in succession for all these different accounts that they have, especially considering how much of our lives are now online, can be very difficult. What's your suggestion for people to be able to collect those passwords in a way that is secure for them without necessarily having to commit every single one of them to memory and forgetting your passwords all the time?
That's an excellent question. So password managers, there are quite a number of them on the market if you just Google them, and you'll find there are a number of password managers you can use. The importance of not using the same password is really important. And when we engage with our clients and we ask them to kind of tell us their password strategy, many of them say, "Oh, I'm using the same password and I just changed the last digit." Or when my password expires in 90 days, I just add an extra digit on the end. Well, hackers know those tricks. So using a password manager where you can really use a different password for everything helps you to manage all those passwords in all those different environments and really helps to avoid um, cross attacks where they get one password and they can access multiple things. If you think about what a hacker wants, if they get to your email, if they get to your phone, they have the keys to the kingdom. So if you think about consolidating your security on just those two items, you make it very difficult for a hacker to access your information. So password managers are really, really important today. That's probably going to help a lot of those people selling that service, but it really is a benefit to people today.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because so many of these different cybersecurity softwares that you can buy also for just your own personal computer or for multiple personal computers for your family, they often do in this age come with password manager protection, or that can be added on too. So there's plenty of reliable services that are out there. We're joined by Draython Savoi. He is the CEO of Global Network Solutions, joining us on today's edition of the Megacast. Again, their Cyberwean Risk Management Conference in partnership and sponsored by Business Forward, an initiative from Oakland County, will be happening on October 20th, 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. That is next week, Thursday, a week from this week, Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Hawk in Farmington Hills. And Draython, for those that may be interested in attending this, who should be attending this conference? Who can get something from this conference for themselves, for their business that could be beneficial and really help them move forward their cybersecurity going forward?
This conference was designed to be non-technical because as I talk to clients, we find that the IT people and the cybersecurity people, and that's another point, they're not the same. They tend to try and get management to understand the importance of making this a team sport. If you just have IT and cybersecurity doing it, it's not going to be effective. So we're hoping to bridge the gap between business owners, managers, IT, and cybersecurity to help bring them in the room to have a conversation about how do we as a group make our environments more secure, not only in our businesses, but hopefully spread out to our employees, to their homes, and hopefully have one of those systems where it just keeps growing. So having your IT people there at the conference, that's fine. But IT should bring in the other management boards and things like that so they can have a true conversation about how to truly protect environments.
Draython, before we let you go, any other lasting cybersecurity advice as we're in the middle of Cybersecurity Awareness Month here in October for individuals, for businesses, or anybody else out there that may need some extra help and some things to consider as they boost their security online?
Yeah, make sure you listen to your IT and cybersecurity professionals. They really do have a finger on the pulse of what's going on and can assist you in moving towards a more secure environment. It's not always important to do everything. When I talk to clients and they say, how long is it going to take for me to become secure? And my response is, it's never a point of when you become secure. It's always a journey in which we're always increasing security and moving towards a more secure environment. So it's never ending. You're always adjusting because attackers are always adjusting their tactics. So it's not a one and done. You can't have someone bring in a bunch of stuff, put it in and say, okay, we're secure. It has to be an ongoing program. I'm going to mention one more thing about the passwords. There is a move away from passwords because passwords can be hacked. You can make them really long, but using things like biometrics are becoming more prevalent because it's harder to fake someone's face or their fingerprint or their retina, their eyes or their voice. So use biometrics as much as you can on your phones as opposed to a password or a pattern. So that's probably one of the final things that's probably important to say. Many, many more things, but in terms of basics, those help get you started.
Cyberwean Risk Management Conference, October 20th from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. at the Hawk in Farmington Hills. Your tickets can be purchased online by navigating through the website associated with this conference at gnsinc.net, gnsync.net for more information and to purchase your tickets for the in-person event, $89 per ticket. And of course, that one ticket admits 5 people from your organization. So essentially, you're getting 5 tickets for $89. You can attend the virtual event for free. And again, October 20th, that is 8 days from today, a little over 8 days from today, on a week from Thursday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in Farmington Hills. Draython, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tyler.
Appreciate it. We'll take a break here on the Megacast. On the other side, we'll shift from cybersecurity to defense on the hockey rink. We'll talk with Ansar Khan from MLive about the upcoming Detroit Red Wings regular season coming back this year with a young team and a lot of hope for the future. That's coming up next. You are watching and listening to the Megacast.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community, and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine to keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Let's savor these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the dining out going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. Let's relish these moments, made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the festivals going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live local daily TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our program on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast. You'll find info on all of our partnering stations across the state and find all of our full shows and individual interviews on demand. Well, the fall is here, and that means we are back to basketball and hockey season here in Michigan as we continue on with football and college football across the state. And our beloved Red Wings coming back with a lot of excitement behind the team this year, a young team, but a lot of promise too. And joining us now to talk about the Red Wings' upcoming season is MLive beat writer Ansar Khan. Ansar, thanks for being with us again.
Glad to be with you.
Glad to have you on. So the Red Wings wrapped up the preseason on Saturday night. They had a 5-1 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs, finishing the preseason with a 3-5 overall record. That being said, a lot of good things that we've seen over the offseason from this team, some interesting moves to bring in some more veteran players, bolster that young team, and really look toward the future under a new head coach in Derek Lalonde. What have you seen this preseason that's been impressive for the Red Wings, but some things maybe also to be concerned about for this upcoming season for this young squad?
Well, the preseason itself, it's difficult to really put too much into it because you're dealing mostly with kind of skeleton lineups. A lot of young players, prospects who eventually were sent down, getting a look. But just overall, coming into the training camp and preseason, after all the moves they made in the off season, this is a much deeper team than last year. They addressed all their positions of need, scoring, defense, upgraded in goaltending. They upgraded, or they addressed all the just the areas that they needed to address, and the fact that they're a deeper team, they can withstand injuries more than they could last year, and really should be improved in all areas.
And speak to the addition of Ben Sherratt and Ali Mata on the defensive side, too, because adding those two defensemen, they're veteran defensemen, to a team that really struggled to prevent teams from getting to the goaltender last season and putting shots on goal. How are those additions going to help this team, especially with that added depth this year, to to improve on the defensive side of the puck?
Yeah, a couple of veterans, a lot of experience, kind of defensive-minded guys, both with good size. Sherratt is going to be paired with Moritz Seider on the top pairing. He'll log a lot of minutes. Amata on the second pairing with Roenick. So, two of your top four on defense there. That's a pretty significant upgrade for a team that ranked 31st in the league in goals against last year. Of course, it wasn't all on the defense, but certainly the forwards and the goaltending had something to do with their struggles keeping the puck out of the net. But the defense should be much improved. Now, rookie Simon Edmondson, a lot of people expected or hoped that he would make the team, but it was clear in the preseason that he's only 19. He's got some work to do, and so he'll start in Grand Rapids and possibly eventually work his way up at some point this season. But as far as the additions with the two veterans that you mentioned there, it should be a better defense for sure.
Yeah, also adding veterans at the center position, goaltender, forwards as well on this team. Plenty of additions for Steve Yzerman, Derek Lalonde, and this Red Wings team from the front office downward all throughout the offseason. And let's go into that goaltender situation, because Alexei Nedeljkovic is still here. He had a decent season last year for the Detroit Red Wings. They're also bringing in Billy Husso from free agency. And then they have one of the top goaltending prospects and a former first-round pick in Sebastian Cossa as well, who got some time in the preseason and is going to be with the Grand Rapids Griffins to start the regular season. What do you believe the timetable could be on that former first-round pick on Cossa and his potential impact on the Red Wings this season?
Yeah, no, for goalies, it takes longer than skaters to develop. So he's probably several years away from reaching the NHL. If you'll recall, Jimmy Howard spent 4 years in Grand Rapids. It kind of goes to show you, unless you're a real elite goaltending prospect, like somebody like Shesterkin from the Rangers or Vasilevsky from Tampa Bay, it's going to take some time. So I would suspect it would take at least 3 years development time in the minors for Cossa. Now he's going to he's not necessarily going to start in Grand Rapids. They've got Jussi Olkinuora, the Olympics MVP from Finland that they signed in the offseason. And they also got Victor Brattstrom, who had a pretty decent preseason, and he played 30-some games for Grand Rapids last season. So my guess is that after Grand Rapids goes through its little training camp here, that Cossa might be sent down to Toledo, where he would get much more playing time. And that's one of the things that they stressed is a young guy like that needs a lot of playing time. He needs to net. You can't just play one game a week and hope to develop that way. So I get the feeling that he's going to start in Toledo.
You can find more information on the Red Wings and read articles from Ansar all throughout the preseason that have already passed, as well as the regular season that begins this Friday at 7 o'clock against the Montreal Canadiens on Valley Sports at 7 o'clock by visiting MLive.com, MLive.com/Red Wings for more information. Again, their season begins this week, Friday at Little Caesars Arena, 7 p.m. Puck drop at LCA against the Montreal Canadiens. And then, of course, another key part of the preseason is narrowing down that roster, keeping guys that you think are going to help support the progress of this team, but also be key players in all the different lines for the Red Wings all throughout the season. Any surprising cuts from Coach Lalonde and this Red Wings squad from this preseason, Ansar?
Yeah, well, not a cut, but a surprise that Elmer Soderblom has made the season opening roster. He's a promising, he has been for the last year or two, a very promising prospect, 6'8". You just don't see guys that big in the NHL, very few. Terrific hands, good skills. He impressed in the prospects tournament and then in training camp, and then he had a good preseason. But still, you figured, well, maybe at that age, he's 21, could use some time developing in Grand Rapids, but he pretty much forced his way onto the roster with his play, and he'll certainly be intriguing to watch, especially early in the season. He'll be on the power play, I'm sure. Otherwise, they wouldn't have kept him up here. 6'8" guy in front of the net should be interesting.
We're joined by Ansar Khan from MLive on today's edition of the Megacast. He is one of the beat writers there in the sports department covering the Detroit Red Wings. More information to find his articles on MLive.com/Red Wings. Of course, the Red Wings coming into their first season under new head coach Derek Lalonde, and whenever there's a coaching change in any of our professional sports, but really especially in hockey, that can have quite the big impact on this team. Coming off of the era of Jeff Blashill at the helm and now into Derek Lalonde, how are the players in the locker room taking to this new coaching staff and this new regime in Detroit?
Good, by all accounts. One thing Lalonde has been stressing here throughout camp and the preseason is playing with pace. He thinks that this is a fast team and that they can play a fast game. And that's kind of been evident, too, in some of the practices. Yesterday was one of the more intense, faster practices that I've seen in quite some time. And also, I think all coaches are sticklers for defense and shutting opponents down, but he's certainly made an emphasis of it in pretty much every post-game press conference that he talks about. He really harps on, he calls it poaching for offense and something that they can't do. And each individual young player that he talks about, he stresses how much it's great that they're, if they can score goals, but it's more important that they play on the right side of the puck and defend well. So that's going to, and, they, like I said, they ranked 31st in the league last year in goals against. They need really a significant improvement in that to make any kind of advance in the standings.
Yeah, certainly if you can't protect your own goal, you're going to have a lot of problems winning games in the National Hockey League. Ansar, thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be with you.
Appreciate it. His articles on MLive.com/Red Wings. Red Wings, again, begin their season on Friday night at Little Caesars Arena against the Montreal Canadiens. That is a 7 o'clock puck drop on Bally Sports Detroit. Check your local listings to view all of your Red Wings hockey games this season. We'll take a break. On the other side, we'll talk creative reuse with Adamiak from Arts and Scraps. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine. To keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
Let's whoop it up for these moments. Made possible by the COVID-19 vaccine. Keep the cheering going by keeping yourself protected and your COVID-19 vaccines up to date. In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu. Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both healthy children getting sick from the virus as well as children with underlying health conditions.
They can easily bring the virus home to other people that are vulnerable and make them sick as well.
This vaccine can change that and keep children safe.
It's essential that your children get vaccinated to protect them, to protect your families, and to protect those in the community around you.
Welcome back to the Megacast, our live, local 5 days per week TV, radio, and streaming show about all things Michigan. I'm Tyler Kieft. Learn more about our show by visiting civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll find our local partnering stations in your local area, including My Michigan TV, all across the great state of Michigan, and find all of our full programs and individual interviews on demand. civiccentertv.com/megacast. And of course, if you have an idea for someone we could talk to about something interesting happening right here in the state of Michigan, or about issues affecting your community, send us a message on civiccentertv.com/megacast. We always appreciate your suggestions and helping to improve this show each and every day. Joining us now on the Megacast is Adamiak. He is the executive director of Arts and Scraps, a nonprofit that is working to take reusable materials and turn them into educational materials. Ang, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Appreciate having you on. So first off, tell us about Arts and Scraps and how this idea came to mind and the origins of this organization, taking recycled materials and turning them into products that are usable for educational purposes.
So we were founded in 1989 by a teacher and a couple of our friends. And her husband worked at a manufacturing plant and was seeing all the stuff that was being thrown away. And so she saw those materials and thought, this would be great for my classroom and my friends' classrooms. So she started to gather those materials and gather feedback from other teachers of what could be used. And over time, it grew and grew and grew into an entire store. And then over time, people started asking her, you know, how are you teaching with these materials? Tell me more about how you're doing that. Will you teach with these materials? And that turned into our whole educational side of what we do.
And it's interesting, too, because you go to their website, you go to artsandscraps.org. The first picture you see is someone from Arts and Scraps that's holding up what looks like a model truck that is made out of recyclable materials. And you're thinking, well, how do you take something from your recycling bin and turn it into something like that looks like a regular run-of-the-mill toy truck that you'd pick up in a toy store or anywhere else, and use that as an example? It's really interesting how you can bring recycled materials into almost anything. So what is the process that your organization goes through to collect those materials, for one, and then not only collect them, but turn them in to these various different materials that are used for so many different purposes in classrooms and beyond?
Absolutely. We have about 200 businesses that donate to us every year. They're scraps that would have been thrown away. Sometimes it's overprints or misprints. Sometimes it's something that was a cut that would have ended up, you know, in the garbage, and instead it comes to us. And then we have thousands and thousands of individuals that donate materials to us as well. And some of those go into our store and some of those go into our educational kits. And really what makes it all work is we have a really unique educational philosophy that helps students learn the core curriculum that they have to learn in their everyday classroom. And then we come in and are able to enhance what's already going on and teach something based on those state and national standards, but then that allow them to use their own creativity and ideas to come up with their own version of what we're working on. My favorite way for people to understand this is for me to explain one of our core curriculum. My favorite is our Space and Alien Kit. We talk about what makes a planet versus a star, moon, whatever else is up there. Super typical lesson for 2nd through 4th grade kids. And we will have students decide what characteristics of their imaginary new planet they're going to have. And they will utilize those characteristics to build with recycled materials the alien that would live on their imaginary planet. So we have everything from the super analytical child that says, you know, my planet's really close to the sun, so it's going to be really hot and have lots of gravity. So my alien will have maybe no bones and reflective skin to like handle the heat of the sun, all the way to the very creative child that says, my planet is best hair day every planet, and it's going to have beautiful, curly, colorful hair. And to that child, instead of saying, no, you did it wrong, which is typically what they would get in a classroom environment where they have to memorize facts, instead, we say, that's awesome. Let's go back and edit your imaginary planet to make it match your alien. So we really are able to teach that core curriculum through children's ideas being validated and learning through their own ideas.
Joined by the Executive Director of Arts and Scraps, Adamiak, on today's edition of the Megacast. You can find more information and join in on some of the fun with their programs at artsandscraps.org. That's artsandscraps.org for more information. And of course, this is great. These are great programs for kids to enhance their learning and to supplement their learning in the classroom. But can adults also join in on the fun, Ange?
Absolutely. Our store is full of adults that are there for fun. And at Arts and Scraps, we have a saying that we always use, which is, if we're not having fun, we're doing it wrong. So even our staff, we're always trying to find places to have fun. And what's one of my favorite parts of our store is people come together and meet each other just based on the materials that they're trying to find, and end up forming lifelong friendships just because they were both shopping in Arts and Scraps, talking about how they're going to use our unique materials for whatever they're doing. So please, please, please stop in.
So tell us more about the community store. Where is it located? What are the hours? And what are some of the items that people can pick up at your community store?
So Arts and Scraps is located on Harper Avenue, on the far east side of Detroit, just south of Whittier or Cadju, right off of 94. And we're open on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11 to 6 and Saturdays from 11 to 4. You can find everything from industrial scraps, as we've been talking about, all the way to fine art materials. So paint and, colored pencils and watercolor paints and, canvases on a good day, things like that. It's all donated materials, everything for sewing, everything for, knitting, crocheting. But we also have funky things like, I always joke that we're where old media goes to die, right? Like we have beta tapes and we have cassette tapes and, 8-tracks and albums and even down to CDs and DVDs, as everything's come from digital all the way to, being cloud-based. All that stuff ends up at Arts and Scraps. We also have industrial scraps from interior designers. They get sample books every 3 months and they have to throw them away. Instead, they come to Arts and Scraps. We have volunteers that process those materials and then they're ready for people to take them home with them and turn them into something new. It really is a wide array of materials that you really can utilize for a lot of different projects, whether it's fixing up your house or starting a new hobby or anything in between.
It's great too. You can get some tutorials on how to use these products in a number of different ways on their YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com and search Arts and Scraps while you're over there. Subscribe to their channel too and like their videos to help them out too and promoting all the great things that they're doing at Arts and Scraps. And as we're joined today by their Executive Director, Ansar Adamiak, on today's edition of the Megacast, artsandscraps.org for more information. So talking about those tutorials, what are some of the tutorial videos that are available at this time that can really help people take these materials they're getting from your community store and really engage with them in a way that's educational and a whole lot of fun?
Yeah, through 2020, we wanted to give some tutorial videos because we started to give out what we called creative supply kits to students in Detroit. We gave out over 9,500 of these kits. And so we wanted to give some examples of what students and parents could do with the materials at home. So we have everything from like home weaving tutorials on our YouTube channel, all the way to stop motion videos of some of our kits that we've made, and everything in between. So it really can show you the width and breadth of some of our materials and how they can be utilized. Because we know that because they are unique materials, sometimes you need a little bit of help to understand how to utilize them.
More information, again, can be found on artsandscraps.org, artsandscraps.org for more information. You can also call them 313-640-4411, 313-640-4411 for more information. And if people want to get involved, they want to help out this organization, continue to do the great work that it does, what are some of the key ways that they can help out right now?
Yeah, so we have lots of volunteer programs. If you go to our website, there's a tab that's called volunteers that has an intake form that'll help us place you in the right spot. We usually work with about 5,000 volunteers a year, everything from groups of up to 20, all the way down to individuals and what they want to work on, whether it's helping at a community event or even bringing your skills to the table. You can always watch Volunteer Match and Catch a Fire to see if we have special opportunities for volunteers as well. The other big thing that we have coming up is that in 2023, we're starting a program called Safe Space Saturdays, and we need donations. We need help with install to renovate our classroom. We need as much volunteer help as we can get to make sure that we can offer free programming every Saturday in 2023 to the community, no matter where you're coming from. We want to create a safe space for kids to be for free on Saturdays.
Well, Ange, we appreciate you joining us. Before we let you go, any other information we should know about Arts and Scraps or things we should keep in mind at this time for the future and keep an eye out for?
Yeah, one of the things that people really get confused about is, can I bring my recycling to you? And the base thing that we like to tell people is, if it can go in your recycling bin, put it in your recycling bin, because 9 times out of 10, that's the best way for it to go. But if you have creative materials, or if you're connected to manufacturing in some way and you see materials you think that could come to Arts and Scraps to help put back into the community resources in an accessible way, give us a call, let us know. And then really and truly, we always are looking for new people or companies that want to work with us in order to bring more programming to the community through sponsorships or donations, so that we can continue to give as much access to our materials, but also our programs as possible.
Artsandscraps.org is the website for more information, and artsandscraps.org/volunteer for more info on how you can get involved with the organization in Detroit. Ange, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
One more time, artsandscraps.org is their website. Contact them also by phone at 313-640-4411, 313-640-4411 for more information. That is going to do it for this edition of the Megacast. I want to thank everybody that joined us on today's program. You can watch their interviews back on civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll also find today's full episode if you're just tuning in and want to watch the full thing back on your own time and find more information about all of our partnering stations in Oakland County and across the state of Michigan. civiccentertv.com/megacast. To keep up to date on COVID-19, of course, this program was born out of the pandemic for up-to-date information and has, of course, evolved over the last 2.5, 3 years almost that we have been on the air here across the state of Michigan. Find more information on COVID-19 from reliable resources at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division at civiccentertv.com's local news page, where you'll also find articles from many journalistic outlets across the Great Lakes state making headlines on the COVID-19 front and beyond each and every day. Click through for more information and to read their supporting materials on those articles. And of course, if you have the means to do so, we highly encourage you to subscribe to these publications and support journalism in your local area. civiccentertv.com on our local news page. Huge thank you as well to our crew who makes this program possible every single day at Master Control at My Michigan TV, Calvin Brown and Jared Clark, and of course our producer, the king of television, as we call him, Larry Nyland, for booking all of our guests and helping both them and myself get ready for informative conversations on a number of topics each and every day. That's it for the Tuesday edition of the Megacast. We'll return with a new episode on Wednesday.